everybody. Um, it's been a while since I've been here. Um, my name is Betsy, and I go by Betselina Stitches, both here and on Instagram. Um, my pronouns are she, her, and this is just going to be a regular Flosstube update. So if you're new to Flosstube or new to me, the way I usually do this is um, I will do a few shout outs. Those will be pretty minimal today. Um, and then I'll talk about starts, finishes, works in progress or WIPs, and then plans or goals, and sometimes a little about what's going on with me. I'm going to be doing cross stitch and knitting and crocheting, but we'll make those into chapters, so it'll be all cross stitch first and then all yarn craft second, and then you'll be able to move through the chapters if you're more interested in one than the other. So if you're new here or if you're coming back, welcome. Love having people connect with me on these different crafts that we all love, and yeah, so again, if you're new here, it's been a couple months since I did my last video, so this might be a good chance to jump in. I'll be showing, I think it's 22 things, which is and then I think 5 of those are not cross stitch. So a real mix of things, and you'll get to see kind of the kinds of things that I'm doing. I am recording in Washington, D.C., and in my day-to-day, I do research and data and monitoring and evaluation stuff, so that's kind of where I'm coming from. I am a big data nerd, and yeah, I would say these crafts are kind of one of my hyper focuses to you know relax after the sorts of things I'm doing for work. So that's me. Like I said, I live in Washington, D.C. with my partner and my 3 cats. You might see a cat here or there. And yeah, feel free to comment, like, or subscribe if you see something that seems relevant to you. And let's get started. Okay, so this is where I would normally do shout outs, but honestly, I don't know what it is, but summer in DC is always a little bit rough for me. I don't have any children. I know some people have that excuse for summer to be a little wild, but for me, I'm not sure. So I really haven't been watching that much Flosstube. I have been kind of hyper focusing on the DC universe shows on Netflix while I cross stitch and crochet and knit and things, but not so much the Flosstube. I'm trying to get a little more back into it because I love connecting with people, but no shout outs today. Although there may be some things that come up as we go when I'm talking about different pieces. So to get started with finishes, I have 2 ornament finishes, and so I've been doing WIPGO, which is kind of like a bingo how to choose your projects each month game, And I have two boards, and one is all Christmas ornaments or Christmas related. So I have two ornament finishes. These are not fully made into ornaments or FFO'd, but they are finished with the stitching. So the first one is Our Dear Home. And this was designed by Jeannette Douglas. It's on a piece of 36 count linen in the colorway Frost by We Stitch Me. And I think I showed this in a previous episode, but I didn't use any of the fancy floss, but a lot of the DMC, or that's not true. There are a couple colors in there that I did have the fancy floss, but some of the conversions to DMC were they were a blend of two different DMC colors. So this one is stitched 1/2. And where there are blended threads, I did 1/2 of the X in the darker color and 1/2 of the X in the lighter color. So this was kind of fun to play around with that. I think it's all DMC except I'm using Grasshopper, which I believe is a classic Colorworks, or it might be Color and Cotton. I think it's classic Colorworks for one of the greens. And then I think this is another fancy floss that might be the called for. But yeah, I'm really pleased with this. I like it on this color. And I don't do much 1/2, so that was a new experience. I think a lot of people do 1/2 because they don't have to fuss with the multiple strands and trying to make sure that they lay flat and things like that. But because I did this with a lot of blended threads, I didn't quite get that same benefit from it. But it was still fun. And I think the way that this design is, it looks a little bit primitive, so having it not be as fluffy of threads with the two strands works out for this piece. So that's Our Dear Home by Jeannette Douglas. And the other ornament finish I have is by The Blue Flower, and this was it was either a freebie or it was just sold at the Jingle Ball in 2024, and it's called Festive Fruit Bat. And so that's really cute. He's hanging upside down off of a candy cane. And this is with DMC 2/2 on a navy blue Ada in 16 count. So there's my other finish. It's interesting with ornaments, sometimes there's a lot of stitches, I mean within a small space, and sometimes it's, you know, like 600 stitches or something, and so those ones I usually finish within the days called for on my Whipco board, or sometimes it will get put on my cross stitch Monopoly whip list, and then I'll do the stitches for Whipco, and then the first time it gets called on Monopoly, I'll finish it. So those are the two finishes I had. I also had, I believe, 4. Okay, so Festive Fruit Bat was a start and a finish. I believe this was a Whipco call for July. So that one. And then I had 5 starts that were cross stitched at least. And so some of those are the ornaments. And so I'll show this one first. This is by the Witchy Stitcher, and it's called Dead Inside but Still Festive. And this is on a 32 count Lugana in the colorway Gold Rush by Bestitch Me. And I think maybe I had to do 500 stitches or something like that. So just started the border. And this guy is a little snowman. I think he has a hat and stuff, but because I was only working in the black, that's what got done. So that's Dead Inside, but still festive. And at least one of us in this home is definitely falls into that category of sort of liking Christmas but not liking Christmas. So that's that one. I also started another ornament by the Blue Flower. This one is called Quillber. And you'll see in the photo of the finished ornament, but basically it's a hedgehog and he's holding a little nutcracker. And then I've basically only done parts of the hedgehog without the quills so far, and I haven't yet started on the nutcracker, so it looks a little weird right now, but I think I got all of the stitches of the colors with the most stitches, and so now each color just has a few stitches, and then I'll do the back stitching of the quills at the end. And I don't know what color this is, but this is, I did Mystic Fabrics sells these things that are called bit bags. So it's basically like small cuts of fabric that you could maybe use for an ornament, but like didn't fit into the regular cuts that they do. And so I asked for one with even weave. So I know this is even weave. My guess is it's a 32 count. But I'm not sure because it was just a pile of little pieces of fabric this size. And this is the one I chose for Quillber. I'm also using DMC 2/2 on this one. And that's Quillber by the Blue Flower. And then my last ornament start that I did since my last episode is by Lola Crow Designs, and it's from last year's Christmas Monsters series. So this is the beginning of the Krampus ornament, and yeah, I made good progress on this. It's circular and the bottom is all like the ground and snow and stuff, and I haven't started that part, but I got the part that's on top of the snow. And there's a few colors that still need to be filled in as well. This is again 2/2 in DMC, and I believe this is a 28 count Monaco, so an even weave in black. This is one of my favorite fabrics to use for black stitching. I think it's because it's very even, but it's also I can do it 2/2, and it allows for a little bit more control in, you know, if there are half stitches or things like that than an Ada. So yeah, that's Krampus by Lola Crow. And I also, these ornaments are all from my Ornament Whipco. And I have 2 of the other monsters were called for September. So I will be starting 2 other monsters soon. Okay, and then my 2 starts for August. Yeah, August. From my my other whip board, which is whips and starts. So it's planned starts and planned and whips that I just need to keep working on. So I started my first Mirabilia. This is Tree of Hope by Mirabilia, and it's beautiful. I am starting at the top, and you'll see in the photo, but this is the top of the tree in the center. This is one of the Mirabilias where the focus isn't as much on the fancy lady, although there are fancy ladies in the finished design. But yeah, it uses a combination of DMC and Karen Waterlily's silks. So I just love this. Is I think it's 580 is the DMC, and then the leaves are in a Karen Waterlily's that's called Sea Glass. So it has a really pretty variegation of like a light green, light blue. So yeah, excited to have started that one. I am planning on doing all the beads at the end. And this is a 32 count in summer khaki. And I'm doing as I think they're all on 32 count, and the reason for that is if you don't do it on the same count, then sometimes the beads don't quite fit because the beads are a very specific size. But yeah, I'll be doing the beads at the end, but this is Tree of Hope. So that's that one. So that was the first Whip Girl call. And then I also had on my board this modern folk embroidery free Palestine letter. And so this is my first modern folk embroidery. And I'm really enjoying it so far. I decided that because this is only in red and black, I would be doing I ordered, I may have shown them in a previous haul section, but I'm using this fabric is 30 count portobello linen, and then I'm using sulky 12 weight in just the basic black and one of their more common reds. So yeah, so far it's nice. It's like the stitches are still kind of puffy, but it's only one thread over 2. So I've been told that the sulky thread, the 12 weight thread, is similar to like 1.5 threads of DMC. So yeah, I think this looks good, and it's definitely fun to work on with the one strand, and these colors are really shiny and nice. So that is that one. And this is also just a way to remember our the folks in Palestine and Gaza who are dealing with the conflict right now. Something I don't talk about very much, but yeah, there's been a lot of death and destruction in the region. And yeah, I think that's all I'll say about that. But definitely wishing for more peace and freedom for Palestinians. And this was a good opportunity to try a modern folk embroidery design that wasn't as big as some of the other ones. I believe this is a freebie that I found during Sampler September at one point. So yeah, that's that one. And I believe those are all my finishes and starts for cross stitch. I will stop the video and then I will come back with all of my cross stitch whips. Okay, so to the whips. So this one is the one that's most like a finish because it's my Stitch for Pride Stitchalong, and get it all in there. You'll see that I am caught up through August, so that is great. January, February, anyway, I'm not remembering exactly which months are which, but these bottom two are June and July. So this pretty calm with the back stitch here is one I think maybe I showed you when I had started it, but it's a free black trans woman in New York who worked as a sex worker, and the reason that we know about her in terms of history is based on some court transcripts of when she was accused of being a pickpocket. I think it was pretty clear she was a pickpocket, but they asked about her feminine presentation, and so there's some information about how she viewed herself, and there's sort of the underlying story is that, you know, her friends in New York and also her previous friends and family in Louisiana accepted her for who she was. And then, but there were lots of like media representations of her and her transness as being monstrous or caricature or things like that. So, you know, it's kind of interesting the ways that these historical figures made lives for themselves and how sometimes the comfort that they felt in their identity was assisted by other people, or they may have been talked about in such a way that was harmful by the media or by other people in their environs. And this one is June, and it says La tierra es para quien la trabaja, which means the land is for those who work it. And this one represents Emilio Robles Avila, who was a trans soldier in the Zapatistas in the Mexican Revolution, and was raised initially as female, but on a farm and with a fairly well-off family, and was taught, horse riding and shooting guns and things. And then during their time in as a soldier, they uh, lived as a man. I think maybe initially they may have lived as a woman, um, but the women soldiers um, were uh, sort of relegated to certain roles. Like they definitely carried guns and things like that, but there were definitely like more feminine roles for them in camp and things like that. So they he lived as a man from some point in his time as a soldier, and was sort of like definitely portraying masculine machismo kind of characteristics for much of his life. He was known to, um, smoke and drink and gamble and be a womanizer, and these things that maybe in the current day we wouldn't say are good male qualities, but something interesting about his story is that a lot of his soldier buddies and like contacts from the time that he was a soldier actively participated in, making sure his military file said he was male. And actually, one person, I think, even forged a birth certificate to say that he was male. Um, and there wasn't like this overall support for transness or being LGBTQ. But this particular person was supported, and some of that might have been class related. He did come from a pretty well off family, um, and some of it may have been related to the way that he acted in as a soldier. Um, there was a lot more discussion of his gender after he died. Um, and there was also a lot of like co-optation of his story by I wouldn't say that they referred to themselves as trans exclusionary radical feminists or TERFs, but they wanted to tell the story of powerful women who were part of Mexico's history, and so they referred to him as a strong woman and referred to him as Amelia, and said there were some reports that they had said they wanted to be remembered as a woman on their deathbed, but they actually couldn't speak for the last year of their life, so that's probably not true. Um, but yeah, and there are lots of like photographs of him in various like newspapers and things about the war, and there's a lot of discussion in the learning that we got about how different media portrayed him, and whether or not they accepted his transness. But many of the photos are set up such like portraits of men. And then maybe I'll show a photo, but one of them, he's like holding a gun in one hand and a cigar in the other hand, and he's in a very like masculine stance, and that's a photo that was widely circulated of him. And yeah, so that one was super interesting. Part of my work deals with labor rights, and so I love this sort of like land rights for farm workers and things that's a part of this. but also just a super interesting story. And then August's motif is this sort of broken water jug. You can it's kind of hard to see because of the color and variegation of this thread, but or maybe that's helpful. So it's a water jug, but then you can see there's like pieces of it that are broken on the side there. And this was to represent Saint Anastasia. I believe there might have been several names for them. I'm not remembering the learning right now, but they were a patrician saint and a monk, and they lived as a woman in like early Catholicism. I think they're recognized by the Greek Orthodox Church and like Roman times, sort of. They were a lady in waiting, or some sort of like helper to a queen, but they were also considered a noblewoman, and they had that experience of being sort of like a wealthy person that supported the royal court, and at some point they started to receive attention from, no, I'm not remembering if it's the emperor or the king, but at some point they did not like this attention, and they did not want to be married off to anyone, and so rather than dealing with that fate, I believe their father had set them up for an arranged marriage, and they prayed as hard as they could to grow a beard, so that they would no longer be attractive. And so they prayed and prayed and prayed all night, and then in the morning they had a beard, is the story. So that's super interesting. One way of sort of using a less gender conforming performance for a utilitarian purpose to get out of being married. And so that was interesting. And then also later on, they sort of fled to become a monk. And at a certain point, they were like part of a monastery, and maybe even founded a monastery that was named after them. So that was not the best way to, keep quiet where they were. But then later became a hermit who, lived in some caves that were like supported by local monasteries, but they basically lived alone in the wilderness, and periodically people who worked in the monastery would come and bring food and water. I believe they also grew some of their own food, so it might have been mostly water. That was the thing they couldn't get themselves, and so hence the water jug. And they lived as a man. So it's not really clear, like, whether their gender presentation had something to do with like what they were trying to get out of it, or if they really viewed themselves as male. But definitely like a different path for someone who was raised female in a well-to-do family. And so super interesting. And, you know, it's a saint who is trans, so that's sort of interesting as well. I believe there were also some conversations where feminists held them up as sort of a strong female figure, regardless of how they wanted to be perceived. So, yeah, just very interesting. Um, Sort of choosing a life of solitude and being a hermit as opposed to living as a noble person and getting married is um, something I feel like some of us can relate to. Um, but yeah, so really excited to be all cut up. September did come out just a couple of days ago, so I haven't started that one, but it was my goal once I was done with Whipco to get completely up to speed on this one. Um, and with all my storytelling, I failed to mention this is on a 32 count plum hemp linen um, by Jackson Fiber Arts. And the pattern is the Stitch for Pride 2025 Stitchalong by D's 20 Stitches. And this one in particular, if you are new here, is each month is inspired by a different trans or non-conforming person in history. And then we receive learnings about that person, and Dee designs a motif based on their life or their what is known about them. So really cool. Still just loving this. I feel really grateful to be able to participate in this. Oh, and I'm using there was a thread pack with this by Algie Ross. So the thread I'm using the called for threads, and I'm stitching 2/2. The next thing I worked on is called Woolly Zipper by Bent Creek Designs. I'm not sure where this was the last time we spoke, how much has been done on it, but basically there's only 3 sheets, so I'm close to 2/3 done. And my partner said he liked it this way because it looks like the sheep at the top has 8 legs, like it's a spider sheep. So that's entertaining. But this is on this is a kit, and it came with this. It's kind of like a rough burlap type linen, and it is. I want to say it might be 11 count. I'm not sure. It might be 14 count, but it uses pearl cotton in one strand. So it's a little bit more like stitching with sort of like a thin yarn. And yeah. So I'm stitching with 1 thread over 2 squares. Okay, so it might be like 20 count linen that I'm stitching over 2 or something like that. I'm not totally sure. But yeah, it's an interesting one. It's like a different way of stitching than I usually do. So that's that one. And you can see, but there's a few specialty stitches. Each of the sheep has some specialty stitches. So these ones are kind of just like straight up and down stitches. And then these are sort of like a diagonal satin stitch. And I don't remember what it's going to be for the 3rd sheet, but yeah, Um, so that's my sheep stack. And it's called Woolly Zipper by Bent Creek Designs. Another thing that I put in this section, even though it isn't quite cross stitch, it's still, you know, thread on fabric. So this is my oldest whip, and it's an embroidery kit from Amazon. It's a cat in a pot on printed canvas and using the thread that came with the kit. So I believe this came up on Cross Stitch Monopoly, and so I think I may have finished all the leaves and maybe all the stems, and then I started on some of the flowers. So yeah, that's that one. It seemed to go a lot faster doing embroidery, so I imagine the next time I pick this up I might finish it, but there's more color changes, so we'll see. I still have to do this shadow is I think like in a gray color, and then there are some French knots that are yellow and more of these like orange flowers to finish. But and then I think I still have to do the cat's whiskers, but it's very close to being finished, so that's that one. Continuing with the animal theme, although, you know, probably 50% of my whips have animals. I did some more work on this Labrador puppy. So you can kind of see I started in on the eye and down on the side, one side of the face, and then just because I was there and I was tired of using those colors, I started doing some of the grass of the field behind. And it's kind of hard to see, but you can see that I have quite a few of those clouds in the background stitch as well. This was from Cross Stitch Gold Animals magazine, and the designer's name is Jenny Barton. And yeah, it's almost full coverage, and there's a lot of different, like, some stitches are half stitches or 10th stitch, and some of them are 2 strands versus 1 strand to give it some like dimensionality. So it's different than a lot of things I would normally choose, but I'm enjoying the like learning something different. And yeah, I believe this is a 28 count Alma fabric. And like I said, the stitches are, some of them are 10 stitch, some of them are full cross with 2 threads, some of them are full cross with 1 thread. And yeah, that's where that one is. And I'm not sure if it had a name, but I'm just calling it Labrador Puppy in my Notion tracker. Yeah, so that's that one. And then I did a tiny bit of work on Extraordinary Birds. So I finished this sort of like giant dinosaur bird. And I need, and it's eggs. I think I hadn't done the eggs last time I showed it. I need to still do the back stitch, and then there's like, I don't know, 10 more sections that have been released because it's been completely released now. but my goal was I was behind on both of my Stitchalongs, this and Stitch for Pride. So I tried to catch up with Stitch for Pride, and now this is the thing that I'm trying to catch up on. But obviously, like, it's already all been released, so um, it's more that I don't want to lose momentum than anything. So I'm doing this one on the called for fabric, which is called Sandbar by Stitch Me. This is a 36 count, and I'm stitching in the called for DMC 2/2. So yeah, I still really love this. I think I just got really overwhelmed with life, and I also got kind of into knitting, so I stopped keeping up. I think I said this at the beginning of the year, but sort of anytime anything becomes an obligation and like, no, it's okay, set it aside. So that's that. I also did some work on Ars Robotica by Ink Circles. So I think I worked on here. So this is my Leap Day start for 2020. The idea is I started it on Leap Day 2024, and I need to get it done by Leap Day 2028. So I am over 25%, but I'm nowhere close to 50% at the moment. And this is on, I believe, the called for fabric and using the called for thread. So it might be Color and Cotton is where the thread comes from, or Gentle Arts. But yeah, I like that there's all these different like robotic gears and things that I haven't done very much that had sort of those type of motifs in them. So still enjoying this, but you know, it's just one of those things I'm making a little progress on here or there. And I'm stitching 2/2 on 30 counts. My next whip is This Juneteenth Day by Shaded Stitchery. So I'm not sure where I was when I last showed this, but the most recent things I've worked on are finishing the 2 flower pots. So I believe the one on the one with the flowers is complete, and then I outlined and started filling in the other one. So still really enjoying this, and moving forward on that little by little as well. So that's This Juneteenth Day, and I think this is a 32 count linen, and I'm using the called for DMC 2/2. The next thing I worked on was Anne Frank by Gara, which is the brand of Kyoko Meruoka. And you can see I filled in a lot more in the house, and I started working on this window. A little down here. There are a lot of colors, so I feel like sometimes it doesn't go quite as fast as I hope it will, but I'm still really enjoying it. And that one is on 32 count linen and Aquarius by Stitch Me. And I'm stitching it in DMC 2/2. Okay, just a few more. Um, so another whip from my Christmas ornaments whip go is this Let It Snow. This is by the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery. And you can tell it is so close to a finish. I think I have 15 stitches and maybe some back stitch to do. But for some reason I just haven't picked it up again to finish it. I think part of that is it's on my cross stitch Monopoly whip list, and if I finish it then I have to fix the whip list to add something else, and I've just been like, I don't know, my brain has been overwhelmed, and so there's certain things that I'm just like refusing to do, and I guess this is one of them. But real cute. I think the last time it didn't have a beak and it looked kind of weird, but now it's pretty much done. So hopefully you'll see that one as a finish soon. And this is on that same 36 count frost linen by Bestitch Me. And I'm stitching it in DMC 2/2. And that's Let It Snow. Another Christmas whip. This one is called Christmas Deer Wreath. So I don't know if I showed this the last time, but basically I'm working on finishing the wreath part, and then in the inside there's a deer. So that's that one. This is on that same 32 count Lugana and Gold Rush by Bestitch Me. And this is a monochromatic piece, so everything is in this color. I think it's 606 DMC, and I'm stitching 2/2. And Christmas Deer Wreath is by Smart Cross Stitch, I believe. Let me just double check that. Yes, Smart Cross Stitch. And I think that was also like one of the freebies that I picked up from one of Cross Stitch the Globe's freebie patterns videos, the Christmas one. And then the last whip that I worked on that was cross stitch is this Christmas holiday sampler. So I'm doing pretty well on this. I don't think it goes much outside, if at all, of this nerd shoop, so maybe I'm about 50% done. So I finished the trees and the snowflakes, and these are little presents, but I have some backstitch to make that more obvious. And then there's this like triangle border or band. And this one is by the designer is Joanne Aston. And this was meant to be with Anchor, but I converted to DMC. And this is another one of those pieces from the Mystic Fabrics bit bag, so it is an even weave, I know for sure. Again, it kind of looks like 32 count, but I'm not totally positive on that. And I'm using DMC 2/2. So those are all of my cross stitch whips and one embroidery one. So I'm gonna stop the video here, and then I will come back and talk about plans, and then share with you some of my crochet and knitting adventures, maybe some books. So in terms of plans, so I'm still trying to keep up with WhipGo. I actually finished everything through August. except I still have a remaining square that is FFOs, which is finally finished object. So I've completed the stitching, but I haven't turned it into an object yet, or a finished object. But I am up to speed on my Christmas ornaments whip go, and the September numbers were called. So the 2 ornaments that I'm starting this month are 2 of the other Christmas monsters from Lola Crow Designs, and they are La Befana, which is a witch that is associated with the winter holidays, and then Mary Lewid, which is another character associated with the holidays. I'll put up some photos here. And then for my whips and starts whip go, the 2 calls were for Extraordinary Birds, which is the one that the Stitchalong has completed, but I still have like most of the drops to complete, so I probably won't get completely up to speed with the 2 days that were called, but good to have some time to focus on that. And then the other one was Frog and Toad, which I think is by Mama Witch X Stitch. Yes. And Frog and Toad Forever? I'm not sure which one, but one of the Frog and Toad books was the first book that I ever read as a child. Like the first book when I could read that I read. So I really like this one. It just gives me a good feeling. So I'm glad I'm gonna get to start that. I have to figure out what thread I'm gonna use or get the thread together and figure out what fabric I'm gonna put it on. But that is a new start. And yeah, so that is WIPGO. We'll see if I come back before the October calls have happened. But I'm doing okay keeping up with WIPGO. And then it was my goal this last month to get completely back up to caught up with Stitch for Pride. So you'll remember I've done everything through August now, and the September learning and motif was sent out. I haven't started on that one, but I was a couple behind, so hopefully that one, it also looks like it's a little bit smaller, so hopefully I'll keep up with that one and then make some good progress on Extraordinary Birds. And then let's see, a plan that's less about stitching. I mean, it's about stitching, but I'm going to the Pacific Northwest Stitch Summit in Portland. That starts September 12th through the 14th, and it's in the Portland area. It's not technically in Portland. It's in a city called Tigard, and it just happens to be only 20 minutes from my dad's house where I'll be staying, visiting him after he had another fall back in July, and he's still kind of recovering, but like doing a lot better. So Um, that is good. Um, and it'll be good to see some friends too. One of my other friends is only 20 minutes from the retreat site as well. So I'll be there about a week and a half, and I'm trying to figure out like what are the things that I need, sort of as like retreat supplies, and like which whips do I want to bring. I was thinking I might start Frog and Toad there just as a retreat start. But I know there's a couple kits included with my ticket. And I believe that's for Krista West's Avlia folk embroidery. I might not be remembering that correctly. I'll put it on the screen. And the other designer is the artsy housewife, so I'm sure whatever she brings will be wonderful as well. So it might be that I start those. And I finally put all of my threads for every project into Notion. I have been using this site called Threadbox, which was super helpful because I could, um, like catalog all my threads and put in each project and what threads went with it. And then if I was looking for a thread, I could, um, you know, see which projects that thread was with, so I could locate it. But then I started using Notion, and so like I had some things that were still in Threadbox and some things that were in Notion, and so I just finally put everything into Notion. And so now I'm trying to filter by like which threads do I need to bring if I bring these whips. And so that's like a fun little project, but also I'm kind of like, this always happens to me if I'm traveling. I like, there's a part of me that's opposed to like starting the packing part, and then I end up doing it like without a lot of time to think about it right at the end. So I leave next Tuesday. So that's the 9th, I think. And there was just a like a wild looking pigeon outside my window. Um, but yeah, so kind of getting together all those things, and like also like what sorts of things would be helpful to have like at my table, and thinking about like table gifts um, and things like that. So I have considered trying to put together a logo for my channel, and like getting stickers or needle minders or something made. I have some friends who own a print shop in Portland. Um, but yeah, I'm getting a little like stuck on how to develop a logo as not a person who's very good with graphic design. And also like not wanting to there's lots of ways to do it with AI, and um I haven't quite decided where I land on like when is it stealing people's art that's being used to train these models, and when is it like more of graphic design that is I don't know, like it's not as unique. But I I said earlier that my work sometimes relates to labor rights, so I really don't want to be stealing someone's labor. And yeah, so just trying to figure out where I stand on that, and like whether I would be willing to do some like AI assisted art to make a logo, or if not, like how I would do it. Um, I got into a conversation with a friend of mine who's an artist about it, and like we talked about how like all art is, you know, derivative. So it's like every art is inspired by other. Every piece of art is inspired by other art. So um, if it's an artist who's using AI as a tool to create more art, um, does that make it more okay? Um, so yeah, I'm not really sure where I land on that stuff. I would love it if anyone has any thoughts, please put them in the comments. Or if you have designed a logo and you have any thoughts about um, the best way to do that, I would love to hear them. Um, but yeah, it sounds like there is. It's gone now. Hopefully, there wasn't too much sound of vacuuming in the background. Um, but yeah, so other than that, um, I think my only other plans for sure is Monopoly. So I've been playing cross stitch Monopoly, and it's sort of like every property is assigned to a whip in your whip list, and when you land on it, then you do different things depending on whether it's owned or you want to purchase or pay rent, or and then there's things to do for the other squares like chance or railroads. So I've been doing that. I was doing 2 cross stitch boards and 1 other crafts board, and one of my cross stitch boards ended, and now there's like so many people that are interested, so I probably will continue only having the 2 boards for a while. So that is part of what is like motivating me to move forward on some of the non cross stitch crafts. But also just, you know, it's like a new hyper focus that I'm enjoying. So next I will share some of that. And I will be right back with things that I have started that are crochet or knitting or something else like that in the next clip here. So be right back. Okay, so for the, I guess it's yarn and quilting projects I worked on, the first thing that I did is almost a finish, so I'm putting it in the finishes category. But this is my Sunset Breeze wrap. I made this with size 8 and 9 needles using the US sizes, and the yarn is Lion Brand Made with Love, the cottony one, so it's a cotton acrylic blend. I really like the drape of this. It's very soft, but as you can probably see from looking at it, and I'll put up some photos of me wearing it as well, because this is hard to do in the where I'm currently sitting. But the neck is very wide, and so I'm planning on making some little I-cord straps, just so it can still sit at that level, but it's less likely to fall off. So that's super exciting. I think this is my first ever completed knit project, and it's kind of huge. So I feel really good about that. I also haven't done any blocking, so I'm not sure if you can see there's sort of like The top and the bottom have ribbing, and the rest is stockinette, except for these red rows, which are like a really basic lace pattern. So I'm gonna try it and block it first just to see if there's any shape change or if the lace becomes more defined or whatever before I decide how long in the placement of the straps. But I haven't done that yet. So um, that's the Sunset Breeze wrap. The designer is Cozy Nook Designs. And I got this as part of a kit from the Lion Brand website, but you can also get it, I think, on Ravelry. And her website maybe even has the this pattern. So that is that one. And then I have a new start, which is going to be really hard to show you because it's gigantic. But it's basically, I'm using this, it's like the Walmart brand Mainstays in the chenille chunky yarn. So it's a giant yarn, and I'm using a 25mm crochet hook. So giant hook, and you can kind of see it's like a really thick fabric that it's making. But my goal is to make a chunky mermaid tail blanket with these two colors. And I've gotten to about where I might start doing the decreases towards the feet. But I'm almost through, I think, 4 of the 6 balls of yarn I have, so I'm not sure. I might have to get more yarn if that yarn is even available. But yeah, so this is something I started as part of Monopoly. I think when I bought the yarn, I wasn't quite thinking about how big the stitches would be, so I'm just using single crochet, and they're gigantic. I was originally thinking of trying, I think there's a crocodile stitch and a shell stitch that would have made like more defined scales for the mermaid tail. But with this yarn, there's no way you would be able to see it. So I started trying to do something like that, and then I just thought, this is silly. So I think because the stitches are so big, it does have sort of like a bumpy texture that looks a little bit scaly, so I'm okay with that. I'm not mad at it. But yeah, I looked at several patterns, but because I'm using such a weird yarn and like a giant hook, this isn't based on anyone's pattern, it's just my own. And I'm just using single crochet. So we'll see how it turns out. I think it's an experiment and like see how I like it kind of thing, to see if I ever want to use this yarn again. But yeah, so that is crochet. And I'm not sure if these colors have a name. I think they might be just like teal and silver. But it's basically like a light gray and a teal color. So that is that one. And then in terms of whips, I have been working on also for Monopoly this amigurumi stone plant. And so far I have the top of the dart, and I feel like this is like tiny stitches. It's a 2.5mm hook. So then this is the pot I believe it has like some designs on the outside, which I haven't done yet. And then I have created two of the little stone plants. So right now, it kind of just look like little blobs and they don't really look like anything to me. I think they might also have a little design on them to make them look a little bit more like what they are. But you know, it's it's an experiment, and like again, it's like a practicing a different task. This other one is like use your whole arm to make the the one like single crochet in the giant yarn, and this one is like much more like fine motor control, tiny stitches. So that is that one. This is all out of a kit, so I'm using the kit yarn and the kit hook, which again is a 2.5 millimeter hook. And then I'm using a little bit of polyfill to fill in the little pieces of the plant, and I think probably it goes between in the pot and the dirt. So that is that one. I haven't gotten any further on this 2% blanket by Lindsay George because I'm still trying to get this knot apart. But honestly, like it's not that fun, so I, you know, bring it out like maybe once a week and try to get more. I do feel like I'm making progress, but it's just like it's annoying, so I haven't done a whole lot with that. And yeah, so I think I'm definitely gonna bring the Sunset Breeze wrap with me to Portland because I like to wear it if it's finished. And but these other projects, it seems like might be too big. I might bring the knot just because it's a good thing to like do while I'm talking to someone. But you know, I'm definitely not bringing the mermaid blanket. Like it's already gigantic and it's not even halfway done. So I'm not gonna try and use up that space in my suitcase. And I don't know, the amigurumi is kind of fiddly, so like I could bring it, but I don't know if I will. Um, just because there's so many different pieces that I could lose, and you know, so that is that. Let's see. Oh, the last thing I'm working on, I'm just gonna show pictures of because I don't think it would be helpful to like hold it up, but I have been working on my English paper piecing hexagons project. So far it's just a hexies project because I don't have any like design for a finished item or anything. I'm just making hexagons that are 2 inches across with various fabric I have. And I spent 5 hours on it as part of a Monopoly turn. So I'm definitely making progress, as you'll see in the photos, but it's not like I'm going to show every single hexagon, so I just figure I'll show you some pictures of the different ones. And yeah, I think that is all of my other crafts that I've worked on since my last video. And let's see, the other things, so plans. So I think I talked a while back about having these friends from Cross Stitch Monopoly who are also Twitch streamers, and they were working on the the spite sweater, um, to try and see how many people could finish it before Ian. And it's Ian of Ian's Crafts. And so far he's still not done. And this sweater is really beautiful. It's by Wool and Pine, and it's called the Deep Winter Coat. And it uses either a worsted weight yarn held double or a bulky yarn. So it's really like plush and squishy. And it has it's constructed, I mean, it's kind of top down. I'm still learning my terminology here. The wrap was top down, but that was obvious because it's just like a big tube with like increasing towards the bottom. But yeah, this is like a long cardigan with a a tie closure. And like I said, it has oh, I'm losing my words now. Twists, cords. It has a pattern in it that looks really complicated, but is apparently not that difficult. Like, in order to do this, basically you like take the stitches that are going to be twisted, and you like put them on another needle for like while you do the other stitches, and then you just reconnect them. And because there's like, I don't know, 10 people who've done this sweater in this Discord that I am in, it's Zakayla's Discord. There's a lot of people to like ask for advice. And I hear that the pattern is like mostly good, but there's some confusing parts, and so it'll be nice to do that and like do something new that I've never done before, but also know that there's like several people who've done this and can help me out. And I'm kind of also just trying to learn how best to do sizing. I didn't do a swatch for the Sunset Breeze wrap. And I kind of just chose like the 2XL size without really doing a whole lot of measuring. And so I think that that's probably, I mean, part of it is also just that like I'm new, so probably the ribs at the top were like not as tight as they could have been. And again, I didn't swatch, so I didn't really think about how big it was going to be. Although, you know, like other than the neck, the rest of it is the right size. So I kind of have been thinking about just like measurements on different parts of me when I'm thinking about how I would want a sweater to fit. And I think that my shoulders are like on the smaller side, even though the rest of me is more like plus size. And so will be interesting trying to make sure that this that I get the right size in projects going forward. And yeah, so I decided I'm definitely going to start that. I bought the pattern and I ordered yarn, and I chose Knit Picks Swish in bulky. So I decided, as much as I'd like learning new things, like it will just be easier for me to do it without holding the yarn double. And then also like the amount of yarn that is needed if you are holding it double is like twice the yardage, and I couldn't find one that I liked in the worsted weight that I would be able to afford as, you know, as many skeins as I needed. Even with this one, I needed 11 skeins. So yeah, so I just went with the bulky. The color, if I didn't say already, is Garnet Heather. So a really deep red, and I'm looking forward to that. I also considered like a darker sagey green, um, but I'm trying to temper my desire to do like the most colorful thing, because honestly here I wear a lot of colors, but like my over garments are usually like um, neutrals, and that's kind of like the style in DC. I'm more likely to wear like a dark colored coat, and so this dark red I feel like is like, it's not a neutral, but it will be close to close enough to neutral. That doesn't make any sense. I don't know. Deep red doesn't seem as risky as like a mustard or something. So, yeah. And I'm also, so I think I showed in a previous video, I was working on a cup cozy, and it was like, you make the cup cozy to determine like the gauge for making socks, because it's a lot of like, there's some ribbing and there's some stockinette and it's in the round, and it's pretty like similar size and shape to a lot of the things that you do in a sock. And I finished that, and I was like, oh, this is, so that might be the first knit thing that I finished, but it was really small. And I'm using US size 2 needles. And then when I started the wrap, I was watching a video just to like make sure that I was doing things correctly, and like think about my hand placement for doing a knit 2 purl 2 rib. Um, and I discovered that I had been making my knit stitches in the back loop instead of the front loop, and so there are definitely people who do that. Like, that's not like a completely wrong thing, but it does make your stitches a little twisted. And so I decided, well, I should learn to do it the right way, or the way that most people do it. I can always come back to doing this later if I want to do something in a different kind of stitch. But so I started doing it the right way, with the Sunset Breeze wrap, and I noticed that it's actually also faster to do it the right way. Um, and the stitches are a little looser. I think when you do the back one, the way that it twists ends up making the fabric a little bit thicker. And so when I was thinking about going back to like a sock project, I was like, oh, I should do this swatch again because it might not be right. So I do plan on doing that swatch again, and I will also plan on blocking it. I did get some wool wash, so if there's anything I want to block but I don't want to put in the washing machine, or I do want to use some kind of like soap or whatever, but not detergent, then I have that. So I started working a little bit on like trying to cast on and make sure I was doing things correctly, but there's really not enough to show you. And I might pull it all out again and restart, because the first one I made, like the cast on side of the cozy was really like way too loose. And so I'm trying to make sure that it's more even this time, just as like practice, and also if I start making socks. So those are my plans for yarn. And I think I also have a bunch of haul to share. And I might talk also about some books I've been reading. So yeah, I will be back in a few. Okay, well, this next section is going to be haul. So I've got a lot of different things to show you. If you're not so interested in haul, acquisitions, purchases, things like that, feel free to skip to the next chapter or take off from here. It's lovely to have you viewing my content, regardless of if you like this section or not. So yeah. So because I think in my last video I decided it was too long and I just wasn't going to share a haul, so some of this is older. But yeah, I'm going to start with fabric. I have quite a few different Be Stitch Me fabrics. So this one is the May fabric of the month. And this is a 40 count linen in the colorway Grog. So a really nice like peachy neutral. So probably be good for a sampler. Put a little bit closer. That looks right to me. But yeah, and really nice modeling. So that is that one. Then I got this one from Kaylee's Sewing Shop, and this is an Ada. I forget what it's called. It might be something like Nightfall, or but yeah, just a deep dark gray. Some modeling on it. If I can find the color, I'll put it on the screen. And then the June fabric of the month from Be Stitch Me is called Dusk, and it's this beautiful sort of muted pink. And this is also in a 40 count linen. And then this is the July fabric of the month, and this one is called What the Hay, and this is more of a like cream yellowish type neutral, but really pretty. It's also a 40 count linen. You can see a little slight modeling there. And then I think these other two I purchased from the Ready to Ship fabrics. So this I got thinking I would use it for Witch's Night Out. And it's this amazing like neon green color called Radioactive. This is an 18 count Ada. And I guess I've been thinking about using brighter colors, but I also don't want to like end up with the color of the fabric overshadowing the beauty of the threads. And so I've been thinking about these as things I would do for you know, monochromatic pieces, or pieces where the fabric is the real star. And yeah, and I had the same kind of idea for this one. This is called Frozen Lake. And this is a 40 count linen. And I haven't measured, but I was thinking if it fits that I might do the 7th Wave by Long Dog Samplers on this one, which again is a, I don't know, it could be monochromatic, but it's, I think it's shown with I think it's shown with the 2 colors, and one of them is like a darker blue. So those are fabrics. I'm gonna pause for a second and just like open up the threads that I have so you don't have to hear the you know, crinkling of the plastic. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I believe the only new threads I've gotten since we last spoke are my Classic Colorworks Floss Fix that I get every month, and I have 3 of those to go through with you. These are sent in alphabetical order, so we are currently on the P's. So starting with June, we have Peach Sherbet. That looks pretty true to color. It's like a yellow with like some peachy orange going through it. And then Peanut Brittle. It's like a warm light brown tan color. Pebble Beach, sort of like a muted grayish brown. Perfect Pie Crust. This like sort of very light brown with like orange undertones. We have Persimmon, which I think is showing a little brighter than it is. It's kind of a pinky, reddish pink. Yeah, I think it's looking a little less orange-ish than it is. This is called Petite Maison. That's a very light blue. It kind of reminds me of 747 in DMC, with maybe a little tiny bit more green. Then starting in July, we have Pickled Beets, which this is just beautiful. This is like magenta with like a light purple and a dark purple. Pink Champagne. And this is like a really vibrant pink with some lighter pink going through it. Um, I think of pink champagne as being like a little more orange and light, but this color is really beautiful. Then we have pine needles. It's sort of like a yellowish green, but a dark green. Pink posy, and this is just like a baby pink. Pixie dust, which is a pretty similar color to the pink posy, but it has a little more of the like variegation. Like there's more white in it, and some of the pink is a little darker. Then we have plum paisley. Just a really nice, like muted purple with kind of a blue undertone. And then for August, not a huge fan of this color name. It's called Plymouth Rock. I do like this color. It's like a grayish, shiny, silvery dark gray. But yeah, I guess I don't know what the true like story behind the naming of Plymouth Rock, but my understanding is the name is most likely the colonizer name for Plymouth Rock, whereas the natives would have called it something else. So, you know, during the Great Encounter, it was called Plymouth Rock by the Pilgrims, but that's, you know, very Eurocentric kind of naming. This one is called Poblano Pepper. And it's a like kind of like a sage green. I don't think of those peppers as being this color, but it is a very pretty green. Kind of looks a little shimmery. Then we have Pollywog. It's just like a nice, rich, like greenish brown. I'm not sure you're getting the like green as much. That might be a little better. And then prairie grass. This is a little bit more yellow of sage green, and a little lighter than that poblano. Down to the last couple. Okay, and then this one is prickly pear. So kind of a dark pink. And the last one, Priscilla's Peppermint. So kind of like a hot pink, a darker hot pink. So those are my floss haul. I don't believe I bought any other floss. Something else that I got previous to the last video but never showed you is I saw Michelle Bendy Stitchy talking about these bags that Kaylee's Sewing Shop makes that have this like you know, it's like a boxy shape instead of just an envelope. There's sides to it. And this one is just beautiful. This is like, I think the name of the bag is Phoenix. And then it has like a vinyl front like this. I always have a ton of stuff in my project bag, so I thought these would be good. And it was sort of like, I think it was buy one, get one, or maybe I bought this one at the regular price, and then there was like half off if you let them choose the second one. And the second one I've been keeping my 2% blanket in. And so this one looks a lot more like upholstery, but really pretty, like burgundy with flowers, and then this like stripy sides, and the vinyl front there. So yeah, I really like this style of bag that's like a little bit more open. I think the ones that are more like an envelope are good if you're using like fewer colors or a smaller thing. I kind of stuff all my project bags to the gills lately. So like I have a bunch of Christmas ornaments, right? And a lot of them are on the same fabric, and I haven't cut the fabric apart or anything. So just all the Christmas ornaments are in the same bag, and then sometimes they share colors. And so I'm doing that with one that's like the Amazon bags in a like larger size, and then one is like an envelope kind, and it's always like totally bursting. So, and I also like, sometimes I put my my like hoop or my nurge in the bag too. So I just think like with the messiness of my personality, like maybe those bigger ones are better for me. But yeah, they're all really nice. I wish I could get more. I really like the Jasmine's custom bags ones, but so far I haven't felt like I could spend like $50 on a project bag when I have these ones I got from Amazon. But one day in my future, hopefully. So those are those. Let's see. Okay, and then the other things I got, I believe, are yarn. And there was also like a bright orange, I think it was called Pumpkin Patch, that I got for the fabric of the month from Be Stitch Me, but I just could not find it. It looks like a really good color for like something Halloween-y, especially something where like most of the colors are dark of the floss. But yeah, I can't find it. So speaking of yarn, these are for that Sunset Breeze wrap. This is the Lion brand, made with Love, the cottony one. And this is, doesn't look like I have any of the tags, but I want to say it's like 60% cotton and 40% acrylic, something like that. So I think this is olive. Not sure what this red color is. I know this one is called Gold Medal. And then the purple, I remember the name of because it's Knit One Purple One. So yeah, I really enjoyed working with this yarn. It's like it's not scratchy, and it seems like it has a really good drape. But I'm still a little unclear on like what things do when you block them. So I know that like cotton and acrylic, you wouldn't want to necessarily apply a lot of heat to, but that the like acrylic doesn't want to stay in whatever form you like dry it into, but the cotton would. So we'll see. My plan is to get my wrap wet, and kind of like squeeze it out and see what I get. I don't think I'm going to be throwing it in the wash initially, although it is machine washable, so I might do that. I think that maybe for blocking it, I won't throw it in the wash, just so I can see like how much shaping I'm able to do, or like whether it gets bigger, because you know, like you saw the neck was really big, so that's part of why I want to get it wet before I put in the straps, because if it's going to get way bigger, then where I put the straps is going to be totally different. So that's that. I also got a couple new, these are, oh, just one actually. I got another mandala yarn, and it's kind of like muted rainbow, and this color is called Sasquatch. I believe this is what Crafty Gaming Jamie used on her blanket that is the same design I'm doing. I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do with this or the one that's in the colorway Spirit, but I really liked these colors, so I ended up getting it. And these are Lion Brand Mandala yarn. This is the bonus bundle size, and these are 100% acrylic. I also plan on washing this one too. The blanket that I'm making with it once I finish figuring out the knot. Because Therapy by Craft had mentioned that this yarn gets softer as you wash it, and that it's not generally scratchy like we consider acrylic. So yeah, so I think that's all my haul. I'm debating like whether or not I should be like budgeting extra for stuff at the retreat. Probably I should, but I don't know. Like I have a lot of fabric and I have a pretty much full set of DMC, and I'm like, I don't know how many of the classic colorworks I have, but yeah, I have a lot of thread. The other thing that I've been thinking about is whether or not I want to start and share a like stitch it with me at the retreat, because I think that's a great idea, where you kind of just like send around your project bag with your project in a paper pattern and a bunch of threads that you don't mind people taking, and then you say, you know, pick a color, do however much you want, and then you can keep the thread. Um, so I might do that, but I haven't decided. I think I'm kind of like, this is my first in-person retreat, um, and I'm just not quite sure like what to expect, or like what I will be mostly drawn to. Like, I know a lot of people kind of feel like they go overboard on buying stuff at a retreat, but I know myself personally, sometimes if I am like surrounded by things that I like, it's really hard for me to make a decision. So sometimes I just don't buy anything until later. Um, but it's 3 days, so you know, I might look at the beginning and then have thoughts about what I'm going to do at the end. Um, and also trying to remind myself that like you can't really tell what a color is on your computer screen, because your colors on your monitor might be different than the colors in person, as much as like the better websites have good photographs. Like, it's, you know, and there might be fabrics there that are from dyers that are not easy to get. um, so we'll see. I am really looking forward to sharing a table with Amity and Aaron from the Hathaway Stitchers. They will be there. Um, and, you know, trying to think of maybe a little something to bring for my table mates at least, if not more folks. So, yeah, I think that's everything except for books. Um, so um, yeah, so I'll come back and talk about books. Okay, my last segment is just going to be on some books that I've read recently. And I guess I would say they're a little bit outside of the genres that I usually read. Um, Mostly in that there's just more romance. I'm not generally someone who reads a lot of romance, although I guess I did when I was younger. Um, Sort of, especially on the level of like, this is easy to read and complete. Summer reading, or, you know, just like more escapism. And I still do that, but I guess I just do a lot more like science fiction and fantasy. Um, so I read a few books that were more, you know, like set in a supposedly real universe, like no world building, um, but still fiction. So, one book that was recommended to me by a coworker, which I have definitely like heard other people say good things about, is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Um, and I really like this one. It's sort of like, uh, it's about an aging movie star and um, a journalist who is like trying to get a scoop, and get an exclusive with her, and then like their relationship sort of evolves, but it's two women, and you get kind of some of the journalist story and some of the movie star story. And she had seven husbands, so you kind of go through her life, um, in segments related to the seven husbands. And there's some like queer elements to the story. Um, but yeah, it has a lot of like old timey Hollywood kind of context in it. And um, I guess surprisingly, that's something that I find really interesting, especially as a place where, like, in the earlier days of cinema, you know, where um, women had a more um, like they were in positions of power in some senses, and in other senses not so much. So I always find those interesting. I really loved the Witchy Bat series when I was younger by Francesca Leo Block, and they live in LA. It's kind of an urban fantasy, and so there's a lot of that kind of elements to that story. So it's kind of good to go back to that. Um, and I think the Evelyn Hugo isn't based on like one person in particular, but some of the elements of her story come from Hedy Lamarr, and some come from like Marilyn Monroe. Um, and so it's that kind of starlet growing into an older actress kind of um, themes. And there's another book, I think it's called Big Beautiful Life, that my same coworker recommended, that has like a kind of similar like journalist get story, like about the life story of someone famous. um, and that one's really popular. I think I'm in line for a hold at the library, and my hold is like still in the like 1500s number on the list. So who knows when that one will come in. But I found it really enjoyable. I liked the complexity that was given to both characters. Um, and yeah. And I guess I kind of like those sort of like biopic. How do you even say that word? Biopic? This is one of those words I've read, but I don't know how to pronounce. Um, like life story of someone, and like the different like parts of their life, and how people are, you know, people change a lot over the course of their lives, and their context and where they are in their life changes a lot. And I just find that growth really interesting. So that was The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Um, Again, a fiction book by Taylor Jenkins Reid, but you know, set in the like 50s to the present. And then I also started reading, I think maybe I might have talked about the first book I read, but this author, Chloe Lisa, again, I don't know how you pronounce her last name, but she writes these sort of urban romance, contemporary romance. So the first book of the Bergman Brothers series really drew me in because the female lead was like very serious soccer player, like initially playing in college, but like suspected to go on to pro soccer. And the other character, the male character, had been really into soccer, but had gotten bacterial meningitis or something, that makes him unable to hear, and he moves away from soccer, even though there are opportunities that he could play, but he just isn't in that world as much anymore. And these books are all Bergman brothers or sisters. They're a big, like, Swedish family, I think, living in the US. But there's like, I don't know, 5 or 6 siblings, and each book talks about one of the siblings and their like romantic interaction. And I guess previously I didn't really like romance because it always seemed very unrealistic. And these are a little different from that in that there's um, more complexity to the characters. Um, Usually, at least one of the characters has a disability. Um, there's a lot more like discussion of like the mental health and like um, things that are needed to be in like a genuine relationship with someone. Um, and yeah, so it feels like a little more mature than sort of some of the romance that I've read in the past. So I've read, I believe, the first four. So Only When It's Us is that one that has the soccer player, main female lead. Um, and I also read Always Only You, which is one of the brothers who is like a pro hockey star. Um, Although it's like that's part of it, but it's not like a huge part of it. Um, and uh, number three is Ever After Always, and that one is like a marriage in crisis one. So it's not like they're meet cute getting together story, but it's more about like they've been married for a while and things aren't going well and like how they come back to each other. Um, and that is one of the sisters is the one that's related to the Bergmans. And then the fourth one, Always Only You, is again one of the brothers, um, who is like a lot more. Um, I think he reads as like autistic or at least very introverted. Like he's not as um, the other family members are like a lot more extroverted, or at least some of them are. Um, and so that level of like self introspection and like feeling like different ways of showing love for people that aren't as much of the like in person socialization, but more like acts of service and things like that. So um, that one is good. And then I am looking forward to, I believe, I think it's the next one is the one that is two men in a relationship. But yeah, it has enough things that are outside of the actual romantic story to keep me reading. And so that's good. And I'm kind of, like, there's no reason that I have to not read romance, but definitely new for me. These are really fast reads. I've read a couple of them in like 1 day or 2 days. So those are some of the books I've been reading. And then some um, fantasy. So one I really liked is called Blood Over Brighthaven. And this is, there's parts of it that remind me of R.F. Kuang's Babel, because it's sort of a world that has magic, and the magic is used for scientific purposes. So, like, um, the main character is like the first woman to get as high as she is in the like mages, which is like magic experts basically. Um, and so there's like some elements of like being a woman in a patriarchal society and like not getting the same opportunities or having to fight really hard for the opportunities. And then there's also some level of like um, science can be exploitative depending on how it is done, and like um, so some level of that going on. And then there's also like like interactions between her, who's considered more like of the dominant race and the dominant like part of society, and although she's not like a legacy in terms of the magic school, um, and then someone who's from like a lower class and like an immigrant race, um, and they're like sort of teaching each other things that they didn't know given their limited worldview, and like, you know, a lot of her being really stuck on the way that she thinks things are. Again, I feel like this character is probably autistic, um, and getting challenged with those ideas, and at first being like, no, it couldn't possibly be that way, and then being like, actually, you're teaching me more than I've ever been taught before, because I was, you know, sheltered into the experience of being in the dominant race and not really seeing um, outside of that. um, and there's a lot of like Rage Against the Machine in the last half of it. So I thought that was really good. It's sort of like academic, uh, magic, science kind of storyline. And yeah, so that was really good. I'll definitely look for more by this author. And then another book I read is I think they pronounced it Moy Documents, but it's spelled like My Documents, by Kevin Nguyen. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It's a Vietnamese author, and or Vietnamese American probably. And then so when I first started reading it, I didn't pay attention to the summary, and I kind of thought it was like a nonfiction book about documentation. And then I got a little further into it, and I was like, oh no, this is fiction. But the basic idea is like there are some like attacks that happen, terrorist incidents that happen, that are the perpetrators are identified as being Vietnamese, and then or Vietnamese Americans, and then sort of like near present time frame in which there are internment camps for anyone with Vietnamese heritage, although it is like a little weird because sometimes like you can get an exemption if you're like working for a company that has sway, or if you're like me and you're part Asian but you don't look Asian, you might not be called to go to the internment camp. So it's really interesting, sort of like those who are in the internment camps are all of a sudden like not connected like we all are with our phones and like devices. And so there's some level of like looking at that and how things are different when like the ways that we connect with people over the internet are severed somewhat. And then stories of what people on the outside are doing, and like the decisions that they make trying to like uh, survive outside, even though family and friends and people who have similar heritage to them are being interned. Um, so it's really interesting and really good. I'm not sure if I talked about it here, but I also read this book a while back called Internment, and by it's right behind me, Samira Ahmed, and that was about Muslim internment. And again, it was kind of like a near present fiction story. Um, and yeah, so it was a really interesting look into sort of different perspectives. Um, and, you know, obviously horrifying at times, but also like the stories of how people survive is can be uplifting sometimes too. So that was that one. Um, and then finally, I think I had forgotten this was a romantasy, but I am still enjoying it. Again, I'm like more okay with romance recently, I guess. Um, so this one is Heartless Hunter, or I think in some imprints it was called The Crimson Moth, but it's the Crimson Moth series by Kristen uh, Ciccarelli. Ciccarelli, I'm not sure. Again, not sure how to pronounce the last name, but really interesting fantasy world where like witches were formerly in power and magic was acceptable, and then there was a revolution, and now um, being seen to do magic is like against the law, and like also being having been a witch prior to the revolution could get you killed or imprisoned or both. And it's sort of a like enemies to lovers kind of thing. Like there's a witch and a witch hunter. Um, and yeah, I really liked the way the world was played out. And there was a twist which I didn't quite see coming, but I wasn't surprising. It was so yeah, um, and it's again like they're sort of like choosing between people who are like um, generally good and didn't experience a lot of trauma, and um, one who's like more questionable morality compared to the female lead, um, but like did go through a lot of trauma. Um, and yeah, so I don't know. I thought it was good. I immediately like checked out the second one. I think it's just a duology. Um, so I'll be reading the next one, which is Rebel Witch, soon. But yeah, some interesting books um, that I've been reading. And I think that'll just be it for me. Thanks for watching. If you're watching, like and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Hopefully you found something in this video that you related to. Love any comments or questions that you have for me in the comments. Yeah, hopefully I'll come back soon, but like I said, summer is kind of wild for me. I think it's like a combination of I grew up in a place that wasn't so humid, and so the humidity always kind of does a number on me. And then also I think I might have summer allergies. So anyway, I just end up being like tired, and like there's a part of me that feels like this is the time that you're supposed to go do things, but I also just want to be in the air conditioning because the humidity makes me really uncomfortable. Um, and then I had like a couple weeks there where like I was just constantly itchy and I couldn't figure out what the problem was. And then I went away. So yeah, I'm kind of hoping as we like ease into fall that I'll go back to like my normal feelings. And um, yeah, so that is it. Um, See you next time. I hope you're having um, a stitchy summer, and that you're getting some stitching in. Bye.